what is that smell? I am definitely getting a hint of a deal. Oh wait, it's more than a hint. Yeah, these are the best deals, and not just this season, but all year long. In all seriousness, the smartest shoppers know that you get the brands you love with the most savings and cash back with Rakuten. And I know I'm certainly interested in sniffing out those deals. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Urban Outfitters, Petco, even Expedia, and getting cash back doesn't mean you have to miss out on sales because those can be stacked right on top. It's easy to use and based on a simple idea. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cashback through PayPal or check. Smells like a perfect deal to me. Download the free Rakuten app and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's Rakuten.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to fight monsters. That road has led them to fighting demons, angels, and saving the world.
It's a journey that is taking them to heaven, hell, and back. But they aren't done.
Join our journey as we go episode by episode, following the adventures of Sam and Dean Winchester. We break each episode down with the writers, producers, directors, crew, and actors to bring you the behind-the-scenes stories of how this legendary TV series was made. That guy right there, that's Rob Benedict. He played God and Chuck Shirley.
Hey, and that guy there, that's Richard Speight Jr. He played Gabriel, Loki, and the Trickster. And P.S., he directed a bunch of episodes, too.
Now, while we are insiders, we're also outsiders, because we're not experts. This is our first time watching the entire series, all 327 episodes.
Rich and I have met many of the fans at conventions around the world, and we are deepening our understanding of why you all love this series so much. Because it's really good.
Yeah, it is. Now, listen. There will be spoilers, so consider yourself warned.
And thank you for joining us on this trip we call Supernatural Then and Now. Hey everybody, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Speight Jr.
And this is Season 6, Episode 20, The Man Who Would Be King.
Who would that be?
A man.
But who?
The Man Who Would Be King.
Don King?
Yeah, Don King.
All right.
Yeah.
Elvis?
And Elvis. Hey, everybody. You know, our episodes are typically under an hour. So what do you do that takes this much time? You commute, you fold laundry, perhaps that dog walk at the end of the day.
We're eliminating a lot of people who listen to the podcast. Let's talk about the people who sell illicit drugs. You're chopping your weed up and adding your fentanyl. Perhaps you're getting the weed, you're melting down the poppies to make the heroin. We don't want to be specific about your career choice.
We forgot about only drug dealers. Like, that's the only people you're like...
No, it's not just drug dealers. It's people who jack cars for a living. I mean, the seedy underworld loves our podcast.
That's true. We are popular with the seedy underworld.
Mustache farmers.
Yeah, mustache farmers. Make us your companion for these activities. Be it a dog walk, folding laundry, your commute, or chopping weed. We can be your companion while you do these things. And now...
Even though weed is legal.
There's
legal. No need to be chopping weed. They have professionals to do that for you now.
Yeah.
That's the irony.
Yeah, that really is the irony. That's what the irony is.
You've left out the mustache farmer.
All right, very interesting episode to talk about today. Let's walk you through what happens. What do you think?
Oh, Boise. Robbie, you better summarize this one.
Okay. Castiel sits on a park bench in heaven, reflecting on his life and choices.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
Yep. He's praying to God for guidance and shares his earliest memories about the dawn of man, the Tower of Babel, meeting Sam and Dean, preventing the apocalypse.
That was kind of all interesting, and we got to hear Castiel say dung.
I don't remember the dung part, but yeah, it was very interesting.
Yep.
And then also, of course, rescuing Sam from hell. However, he's questioning his choices now and is asking God for direction.
And by God, he means the audience, because he stares right down the barrel and says, I need to tell you the story.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it takes a special moment, I think, in a show or a movie where you go, and now we want you to look directly into the camera and acknowledge our eyes. So I thought that was an interesting choice.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was going to pay off at the end when I figured we'd be bookended with Castiel on the bench, which we were.
Sure.
Looked on the barrel, never went anywhere. Somehow I thought we were going to find out that he was talking to somebody specifically the whole time.
Right.
Or something.
Right.
And he was not.
I'll get to this later, but I have something to say about it, but I'll say it later.
All right.
All right. So meanwhile, Dean drives alone in the Impala on his way to meet Sam, who's hunting a djinn. A djinn. Suddenly, Castiel arrives and asks Dean if he has heard anything more about Crowley's whereabouts. He doesn't and tells Cass to call if he needs anything. Castiel disappears. He walks into a room where Crowley is dissecting Eve's corpse.
Yep.
One of the grosser things that we've seen. And that really looked like Eve. The face really looked like Eve. I wonder if they did how they did that.
I don't know.
Curious.
Do you see like when they touched the brain though and it made the other kid bounce around?
Who was the other kid?
I don't know. Some monster they had tied up.
Oh, so like she's linked to all the monsters.
Yeah, that's what they're figuring out.
Right. But that was really her face. It looked like her face. It was.
Yeah. It did not look like her ripped open sternum though.
No. But it did look like her face.
We don't want anybody to think that actress got bisected for the show. It's all fake.
No. It's just more like, what did she have to do a face cast, or did they replicate it based on a picture? What did they do?
Oh.
The demon complains about the Winchesters killing Eve and how it will mess up their plan to work together to take purgatory.
Yeah.
For a moment, we flash back to Castiel on the bench speaking out to God. He recounts Sam falling into the hole with Michael and Lucifer, how for a moment he exploded, but divinely returned to heal Dean, bring Bobby back to life, and get Sam from hell.
Yeah, it was like a little bit of a Castiel greatest hits. We got to hear him say ass butt again and see all the stuff that happened at the end of season 5.
Yeah, and it kind of gets, it's a nice little way to bring us up to date.
Oh, yeah.
But how he also forgot Sam's soul when he brought him back to life. We get to remember that. So back at Crowley's lab, he asks Castiel to kill Sam and Dean. Castiel refuses and tells Crowley to find purgatory. Sam and Dean won't find him. Meanwhile,
right.
Sam and Bobby are interrogating a demon named Red regarding the word. Oh, did you notice that in Castiel's retelling of things, he described Bobby as the drunk?
As the town drunk, yeah. I did. I'm like, wow, that guy gets slammed. He's like, but it would take 2 teenage boys and a drunk. You're like, what?
Why does everyone describe him as the drunk? I don't get that. He drinks no more than Sam and Dean do. They're all drinking all the time.
That's the thing, is they're all drunks. I don't know. I literally thought that was funny. I'm like, wow, harsh.
That was really, really funny. Anyway, meanwhile, Sam and Bobby are interrogating a demon named Red regarding the whereabouts of Crowley. Dean arrives and promises he didn't tell Castiel anything about what they know about Crowley. The demon eventually reveals the location of his dispatcher named Ellsworth, a demon similar to Bobby.
Yeah, I actually thought it was funny too, because 2 things. Red, the guy they tied up and are interrogating.
Yeah.
That's his first episode of Supernatural. His next episode of Supernatural is in episode 1320. I cast him.
No way.
And he plays one of Loki's sons. He plays the wolf. He and I have a sword fight.
Wow. And he's just a different character?
Different character.
Same actor? Interesting. Very interesting.
A lot of those actors up there in Vancouver
sure. We'll
ended up doing multiple Supernatural episodes.
Especially if they only have
so long.
a small scene in one of them, they can do it again. Didn't
Right.
Brianna Buckmaster play a different character early in the show or something?
I don't know.
I thought for some reason she said she played somebody and then before she played Donna. I don't know. Anyway, so Castiel spies on them and runs ahead to clear out Ellsworth's location so that the brothers...
Oh, that guy. So yeah, at that point, that was funny that they had a demon that was the Bobby.
It was funny. It was so...
Talking on the phones the same.
Yeah.
And same surly attitude.
Yeah, and with a name like Ellsworth and such a good, I was like, oh, this is a guy who's going to be around for a while. But boop, he just kills him right away.
Yeah.
So also, this is the first time we see that Castiel can actually spy on the boys. He's there and they don't know he's there.
Right. Yeah. Trippy.
Castiel spies on them and runs ahead to clear out Ellsworth's location so that the brothers can't track Ellsworth to Crowley.
Right.
So this is the first time, too, we're seeing Castiel really working against the boys.
Do Crowley's bidding, yeah?
Yeah, and working to dissuade the boys to make their journey harder.
Yeah.
In a flashback, we see Castiel in heaven soon after saving Sam. There he meets with other angels and which is interesting too, that his meeting place is someone else's heaven.
That was neat. I thought it was interesting. You described it as an autistic man who died in the tub.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of trippy.
Yeah, that is in the background flying a kite as they're...
Yeah.
There he meets with other angels and tries to convince them of using free will, but they are confused by the concept. Later, he goes to meet Raphael, who wants to restart the apocalypse and asks Castiel to pledge his loyalty or die. Now, is Raphael Raphael is another one of God's sons, an archangel, right?
Yes, he's an archangel.
Is he good or bad? Like, what side is he on? He's bad. But he's an archangel.
Right.
He's just going against Castiel.
He just wants the whole Armageddon thing to happen.
Why?
Apocalypse.
Why?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think Damore Barnes is a nice job, though.
Damore's great. Damore's great. And we've hung out with him.
And he's nothing like that.
No.
I mean, that's another reason I like his acting. He's
Yeah.
so good at it.
Yeah.
It's not who he is.
Right.
Weird politics joke. You know, that George Bush was on the wall, and they're like, whose heaven is this? And he says, Ken Lay.
Yeah, who is that?
I can't remember. I meant to Google it. It's some Republican operative or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And he's like, I thought it was unfair. They talk about whether he goes to heaven or hell.
Let's see. Oh, he's the Ken Lay was the American. He was the Enron guy.
Oh.
The guy who robbed.
Right.
In part of the Enron accounting scandal, literally, he like ripped off tons of people of a ton of money.
So
Giant pyramid scheme.
Castiel makes comments that he thinks he doesn't approve that he went to heaven and not hell.
Yeah.
And also it's an interesting place for Crowley to be hiding.
Correct.
So ever since Eve told Sam and Dean that Crowley's alive, they haven't trusted Castiel.
I don't trust you.
They're focused on finding Crowley. The demon wants them dead and out of the way, but Castiel refuses. Crowley sends the demon henchmen to attack the boys. Castiel appears and saves them, but says a line he heard Bobby say when he was spying on the boys.
Something about Superman and Kryptonite, I think.
So Dean now knows Castiel's been eavesdropping on their conversations.
Right.
I thought that was well done. In another flashback, we see Castiel on Dean's suburban lawn thinking about asking his friend to help to defeat Raphael. However, Crowley appears and offers Castiel a deal. They should work together to find purgatory. They can split the monster souls there 50-50. Castiel would have what he needs to wage a war against Raphael, and Crowley would solidify himself as king of hell. Crowley would resurrect Samuel Campbell to do all the dirty work, capturing monsters to find Eve.
Okay.
Oh, and that's why they resurrected Samuel Campbell. So they've had this deal that whole time. Wow, interesting. What do you think about that, Rich?
I think it's awesome.
Back in the present, Sam, Dean, and Bobby summon Castiel and trap him in a ring of fire. That Richard's tweeting or doing something else when he misses a ring of fire bit.
No, we've done the Johnny Cash thing a bunch, Rob. Come on, grow up.
They confront him about everything.
It's not like he fell into a ring of fire. He didn't go down, down, down. And I don't recall the flames getting higher.
Thank you for clocking in. They confront him about everything.
Although it would have burned, that ring of fire.
See, there he is. Welcome back.
Ring of fire.
They confront him about everything. He denies bringing Sam back without a soul on purpose. He promises the brothers he knows what he's doing. A cloud of demon smoke is gathering outside.
Dude, I tell you what, I've traveled with Rob Benedict in an enclosed car. I know a cloud of demon smoke. It's brutal, and I don't care how quickly you roll down the windows. It does damage.
You're right. And yet, I didn't love the effects of that. Looked a bit cartoonish to me, but whatever.
Yeah.
Crowley leaves and remarks that the difference between him and Castiel is that he knows what he is. Later, Castiel appears to Dean, who asks him to stop. Castiel says he can't and asks Dean what Dean would do. Dean says he'll do what he needs to. He's taken on impossible opponents in the past. In the final moments of the episode, Castiel's back in the park from the opening scene asking for God's guidance.
But he's not looking down the barrel of the camera.
Nope.
He doesn't repeat that bit again.
For a sign.
And he's talking to nobody.
Yep, and he's looking for a sign that he knows he's doing the right thing. However, he gets only silence, leaving Castiel to freely choose the best path forward. I'm going to say something, and I'm sure you will make fun of me for saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's interesting watching this episode as the person who played God, and I feel like it does track well with where my character eventually goes in terms of if I'm in character, it is fun to watch. And later in episode 15, Rich, I'm like, you're my favorite. This is my favorite show. You guys are my favorite characters.
Right.
It's interesting to watch, and they're sort of calling out your character. And
yeah.
And
yeah, for sure.
And it scans with where my character eventually goes, where it's just like pleasure to me to watch. And I think that's eventually what it comes down to. So like, we're not toys.
Yeah, totally get it. I can see where that would be interesting. I know that you think this is silly, but I still think it's weird they had him look down the barrel of the lens and there's no payoff for that.
Yeah.
I found that strange.
That is.
I thought that gimmick when they used it as that device at the beginning would have paid off in some way, and it did not.
I agree with that. I think if you do that, it's a pretty heavy thing and you want it to. But the other funny thing is, did you notice young Shepherd on the wall, the picture of young in hell? Yeah, when they go to hell and it's this long waiting line.
The line was funny. I like that.
Yeah, and then Castiel and Crowley kind of go down a side hallway away from the crowd, and there's a photo on the wall, a young headshot of Mark Sheppard.
Oh, interesting.
And what was interesting is that Castiel looks at it, but they don't comment on it. It's funny that even then they're sort of making the joke on Sheppard, and Sheppard's in on it. But yeah, I thought that was funny.
Let me do my intro here, and then you continue. It's time for Rob and Rich ratings. Robert?
I'm excited to talk to Ben Edlund, our guest this week, about the episode, but I thought that there were some really great things, his directorial debut. And, given his past as like a comic book writer, I thought there were a couple things. Even the effects of the smoke being outside, where that almost looked cartoony to me, but it made sense in the Ben Edlund world.
Right.
There are things like that, and the whole montage at the beginning of the Angel Castiel remembering the beginning of Earth and things like that. I thought that was really interesting, and I want to ask him about where he got that footage that he showed,
At the opening?
Yeah.
The sort of historical footage? I thought that was a really cool intro for the show.
And so...
I struggled with this one. I'm going to be honest with you.
Okay.
I just did. I kind of felt like it felt like a Castiel highlight reel, going back in time. It jumped around a lot in time.
Yeah, it was a great episode for him.
Yeah, in terms of Misha having things to do. It's hard to explain. I just never locked in with it, is what I'll say. I never locked in. It jumped around in time a lot. I wasn't exactly sure what we were supposed to be garnering from this episode so I had a hard time kind of connecting with it. I don't really know how else to say it.
It is rare, but I kind of disagree. I think if there was a problem with it for me, it was like a lot of information packed into a jar.
I think that's what I'm talking about. I kind of felt like there's so much being thrown at me, and it's leaping around in time, and I'm not sure. Like I said, it felt like a greatest hits. It felt like they just wanted to put all this intel. And with the voiceover element to it, I know it's a prayer to God.
Yeah, the voiceover element was a bit. It was, again, like looking into the camera. It kind of throws you a bit, and because there's so much information happening, you're like, where we don't go all the way into voiceover. We're just like a little bit of voiceover, but not enough. You know what I mean? I agree with that part of it. I agree with what you're saying about that. Yeah, that was a little bit. Yeah, I think what I didn't like about it was that there was no solid through line of the voiceover and the prayer and the looking to the camera. It wasn't enough of that to be a solid choice. But
can you say that again? What wasn't there?
We know, like the season finale, season 5. There's a voiceover happening, but it's kind of consistently happening. After every commercial break, we come back to this voiceover, and in this episode, it wasn't consistent enough. The prayer part of it was an interesting thing to tell his story, but the story was almost disjointed because there's so much information going on, right?
So it didn't feel prayer-like.
Right.
Yeah, I think tonally that's what I'm saying a little bit.
Yeah, but there was a lot I did like about it. I thought I could feel Ben's directing.
There's some moments I literally loved the demon that was Bobby. It was awesome. I loved Kes, like the things we've already called out that were kind of like standout moments that were cool.
Yeah, and I just think like he's such a genius. Ben's such a genius, and I think his choices again ring to me as like a comic book sometimes.
And Hell is standing in line.
Yeah, that to me that's so Ben Edlund.
Super clever.
There's also I want to ask again. This is one of those things where like I might be completely out, but there's a guy at the end of the line that's a very character-y looking guy. He almost looks like Sam Raimi or something, and he kind of does something. He looks at a wall or something. And he kind of turns and joins the end of the line like he's in hell. And I wonder if he's like a friend of Ben's. To me, the look on that guy was like, that guy rolls with Edlund.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a random thing, but I was like, I wonder, I'll ask Ben. But yeah, they're waiting in line. Like that's so him. And with the elevator music playing, it's playing like some classical, like Paco Bell's Canon or something that's just like over and over and over.
Yeah.
It sounds hellish to have to listen to over and over and over. And a picture of young Mark Sheppard. But yeah, just stuff like that I did like. And I like Misha and Misha's acting a lot. I like Castiel a lot. So I appreciated hearing a bit of his backstory.
Right.
It just was a lot that he's hiding things from the boys and it turns out they're hiding things from him.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you about that. But I felt the energy of Ben directing for the first time, and it made it kind of exciting.
Dude, there's nothing Ben does that I don't love
Right.
in some capacity, usually in great capacity.
Right.
I know there's a lot of story they're trying to move forward with this whole setting up the conflict with Dean and Castiel.
Uh-huh.
So there's that's being sort of set up.
Yeah.
I have said this before, and I will say it again. I'm not completely, and this is one man's opinion, I'm not totally locked into how Dean responds to things these days. It seems not like the Dean of old. So I think he is more sensitive to Cass's betrayal in a way that struck me as, I don't know, not necessarily Dean-like.
Yeah, it felt like jilted lover a bit.
Yeah, certainly building up an element to their relationship that you've alluded to before that you kind of go, okay, well, I see where there's undercurrents is coming from.
Right.
Or I see where audience is picking up an undercurrent from.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was a trip. There was really fun moments in there, but it's a lot of information being transmitted.
Yeah.
In this story.
Yeah, it's funny too because like the Eve episode where Eve that we really liked, where Eve dies in the diner.
Yeah,
and that almost felt like a series, a season finale. But now we're still going. You know what I mean? There's just a lot. Yeah. There's a lot going on in this season.
Yeah, there is. Well, what do you beard this one? I mean, what do you facial hair?
I'm gonna give it
on this one. I use facial hair as a verb, by the way. I just said, what do you facial hair this? I don't know if maybe it's our own lingo now.
I'm gonna give it Colonel Sanders.
Interesting.
Like pointy. I just see pointy mustache, pointy beard, pointy gray beard.
Okay.
It's certainly not as sexy as a Kenny Loggins, but it is Ben Edlund-y.
Well, that's interesting. No one's ever said that Colonel Sanders is not as sexy as Kenny Loggins. That's an astute point right there.
That is a statement that I've certainly never said. But yeah, I think it's Ben Edlund-y. I feel like that there's a little bit of humor in it, but certainly not as sexy as some of the best episodes. But that was interesting to go in. You know, Misha sitting there praying to God. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a little bit of a different episode. And every time it's a Ben Edlund episode, you go, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be told a little bit differently, you know?
Yeah, okay, so Colonel Sanders, huh?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. I am going to go...
Ronald McDonald?
No, I'm going to go with Steve Hine.
Oh.
Our current Steve Hine. It's kind of not a 5 o'clock shadow, it's kind of like a 10 o'clock shadow. It's like, you know, it's a
10 o'clock shadow.
A beard is there. You see the outline of the beard. You understand it's a beard. It probably left to its own devices. It'll become a great and bushy beard.
Mm-hmm.
For now, it's just sort of the solid foundation of a beard. And
it's a baby beard.
To be enjoyed, and other beard lovers would go, hey, you'll get there someday.
Yeah.
Steve Hine.
You'll get there by 5.
Yeah, so it's the shape of a beard, and it's beard-like, and it's beardish, but it's not a full...
Okay.
It's not even a Benedict. We're not there yet. Do you know what I mean?
Not even a Benedict. All right. Well, good to know. That's good to know.
So you got the Colonel Sanders and the Hine.
Great. Which in and of itself is a series I want to watch.
I'm watching that sitcom. Colonel Sanders and the Hine. The Hine, which sounds like an illegal wrestling move.
All right. Well, listen, we've got our buddy Ben Edlund.
We got the architect of this whole thing. Today to talk to,
returning to speak to us about his series directing debut. And here is our conversation with Ben Edlund. So, Ben, this is your directorial debut of Supernatural?
Yes.
So I want to talk about this, the whole thing. I'm so excited about that, right?
So was this also your directorial debut for television, or had you directed before?
I had directed one time before.
The Tick?
No, I should have been The Tick, right?
Yeah.
No, I had directed an episode of Angel, which was a really technically challenging episode where the main character, Angel, was turned into a puppet.
Oh, wow.
And then a portion of the episode was conducted with David Boreanaz in puppet form. Yeah, and it came out great.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, I find directing extremely traumatic. I like to do it. Rich, you've done a lot of it. It's a certain outlay of energy.
Yeah.
So writing is pajama energy, and directing is dirty boot energy, where you're like up in a van at like 5, and like you're always tromping around somewhere. Oh, this is a great culvert. They go, good, let's go look at the culvert.
Yeah.
And then you're down in the dirt looking at crap at like 4 in the morning. It's all just...
Yeah.
It's military, practically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the most non-lethal, lowest stakes sense. It's paramilitary or something, which all production is.
Yeah.
It feels paramilitary to me. But
yeah.
Anyway, so I find it to be very hard on the dreamer side of me to be confronted every moment with just this endless parade of do or die choices. I need to do it from time to time in order to conduct good psyche hygiene, but I find it to be quite unpleasant.
Hey there, this is Richard Speight Jr., and I hope you're enjoying the episode, but we need to pull over for a few seconds for some messages.
I'm someone who loves to have a variety of products in my makeup bag for when I want to be a bit more creative, but on a day-to-day basis, I'm really just reaching for a few staples. When I'm relying on only a few products, I want those to be my holy grails. So I turn to Thrive Cosmetics, whose beauty products are certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free, made with clean, skin-loving ingredients, and have thousands of 5-star reviews. So whether you're like me and want a few high-quality staples, or you're looking to stock up your makeup bag for a full glam, Thrive Cosmetics is the way to go. One product I love from them is the Brilliant Eye Brightener. I've already got it in a couple shades, and I've just seen they have a new gold one that I might need to snag too. I love a product that can have multiple uses, and the Brilliant Eye Brightener is just that. I use it as eyeshadow and highlighter, and it's such an easy way to elevate my everyday look. Plus, for every product sold, Thrive Cosmetics makes a donation towards 8 major causes, including those impacted by cancer, domestic abuse, and veteran and education organizations. I love knowing that a purchase I was going to make anyway is also benefiting causes that matter to me. Thrive Cosmetics is luxury beauty that gives back. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/thrive. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/thrive for 20% off your first order.
This episode is brought to you by Companion. Iris and Josh seem like the perfect match, but when a weekend getaway turns into a nightmare, Iris realizes that things aren't as perfect as they appear. From the creators of Barbarian and the studio that brought you The Notebook comes a twisted tale of modern romance and the sweet satisfaction of revenge. Companion, now playing only in theaters. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Thanks for listening. Now back to the episode. Well, how did this come about in this instance? Did you lobby to direct on Supernatural, or did they lobby you?
No, I lobbied pretty hard. It was not like, there was a very, and this is no particular dig against Supernatural, but in the case of Mutant Enemy, there was this like very conscious conveyor belt, if you wanted to get on it, that put you from writer to producer. And if you wanted to be, it would try to put you into a director position, because they were kind of like a teaching college trying to get showrunners. I think they were trying to render qualified showrunners. Right. But then, we were shooting in LA. The way it worked with this sort of split, there's a real jock pencil neck split in Supernatural.
Yes.
You're up in Vancouver, you're a jock. If you're down in or whatever, like you're a suit, or you're doing like the blueprinting and stuff. Right. And so not too many people cross that divide, and it wasn't an easy cross. So you had to sort of petition for it and keep sort of going like, well, if I'm coming back, or I want this to be allocated as one of the things that I'm gonna be allowed to do.
Yeah.
I don't know who else from the writer corps directed.
Oh, that's a good question. But I'm trying to think if anybody, obviously Bob Singer.
Well, he's a guy from the director corps who wrote.
Came into the, yeah, good point.
And I think in his opinion too, probably.
Sarah never.
Showrunner doesn't count.
Showrunner doesn't count. Agreed.
There was a very clear, production and pre-production divide there. It's just the way it works culturally.
And did you direct others after this?
I did one more. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
In this case, this was such a weird episode.
Yeah.
And we were doing so many weird things.
Yeah.
Luckily, for the purposes of this particular episode, I'm a fairly naive director. Uh-huh. So I'll do all kinds of dumb stuff that people were like, voiceover and like all this stuff that's like, I have people walk into the camera to wipe it out.
Right.
I think that's like, I think certain directorial voices move past that. Uh-huh. But for me, I'm like, no, I think that's the greatest thing ever. Yes. So in the case of like a voiceover episode where the angel is talking directly to God and God is the television viewer.
Right.
Then we're already in a place where I'm pretty comfortable. Because
so we talked about that at the beginning. So you have Castiel First of all, you wrote the script, so you kind of have carte blanche here. But was that in the script that he breaks the fourth wall?
Oh yeah, and everything associated with that. It's funny because we're talking about this episode, and I guess I knew this was coming up, but only just because we had discovered it in some records. I found like this timeline I was working on, which I tweeted a few days ago, actually.
Oh.
So I was doing some thinking about this. That might be handy. I don't know. We were in an interesting situation in season 6 because Eric was moving on. He was doing other stuff.
Right.
And he still had a sort of a hand in everything, but it was a kind of a bisected attention or what have you. And Sarah was running the show, and I was there mostly helping.
Right.
I'm like kind of up in my own business. Anyway, I was definitely helping. But what Sarah was doing was running a show that was like resurrected practically from the ashes of a 5-year plan, or what was essentially like a termination point. And then it was like, and
Yeah.
and then what happens?
Yeah.
But like what we were all missing was a complete attention at the top of what we had before was Kripke,
Right.
was this sort of umbrella brain that was really paying full attention to all these elements. That sort of departed to some degree. So by the time we got to around episode 20, we had a lot of errant plot energy that had not been organized
Right.
by that umbrella brain. And so, for example, what is now canon of like Crowley floating Castiel alone,
Mm-hmm.
that was nowhere in our plan.
Oh.
That was something where I was like, how do we motivate Castiel?
Right.
Right? Like, how are we doing that? Like, we had elements, and it was like Cass was getting deeper and deeper under this pile of shit for everything that we were showing he had been doing,
Right.
because it was intriguing.
Right.
But some of the elements of the motivation were still in the haze.
Right.
Right. And so I started to do these I covered all these, like, the writer's room board was with this crazy thing, and I was doing all this timelining to kind of figure out what are the motivational strokes that are leading to what we've alluded to, which is a war in heaven. Cass is running around, there's weapons, there's this and that. But like, there was a history we needed to justify Cass's position, because he was really catching flack from rightfully from an audience who's going like, we love Cass, what is he doing? I don't understand. He's working with Crowley now.
Right.
And it was like, that was the attitude.
Right.
So like, had to be, yes, he's working with Crowley, and this is why you believe in it. Right?
And that's what this episode was, a lot of explaining why.
Yes. And that's why it had to be like, you know what? Screw it.
Right.
We're going to, like, voiceover is bad. Screw that. Looking directly into the camera and go, let me just tell you the story so that we can move on.
Yeah.
Is bad. Don't do that. I don't care. We're doing that. We're doing that.
Yes.
And then we're going to roll with an episode that does a whole season's worth of Cass's POV in one episode.
Right.
So that we not rewrite, but right the ship of the audience's sympathies with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it was actually a brain-breaking enterprise. And by the time I was done writing the script, I was looking at it and I was going, I hate this script. I can't tell what it is. I feel like it's a teenager's dream board with like glitter and like notes and Post-its and stuff. What the hell is this? Yeah. Kripke, I think, was supportive in that moment and just like, go and shoot it. It's fine. He's doing a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. As viewers, it's a lot to absorb as a viewer, because there's a lot of time jumps and it moves around. And so it certainly is. And it's such, to your point, such a stylistic departure from the show.
Yes. Which is partly my specialty in general. But I would submit, and Rich, I submit it to you. I think this is the kind of piece of work that if you were just to confront somebody who had never seen Supernatural with this, it would not win hearts and minds necessarily. Like, it is a very inside baseball.
It's a deep cut.
Yeah, it's a special linchpin for the viewers of this universe. But like, I don't know. To me, it's like a very specially shaped Lego that you have to order from the factory because...
Dude, I think that is a really astute analysis of this. Rob and I have been talking about this episode, which has obviously got some of your magic sprinkled throughout. But you're right. It is a niche, very specific, serving a very specific purpose.
Yes.
Episode of television.
Yeah. And that purpose was served. I would say only that is true by what I have estimated as the fan reaction to the episode, which is positive. Therefore, we did it. We did it. It was like pulling out of a dive for Cass.
Yeah.
He was really running the risk of losing the audience.
Yes.
He had already lost the audience in essence because he was operating a mystery.
Yeah.
But we had to essentially like pull out and make people understand how heroic he was in his ambitions, and his goals were pure. His capacities were limited.
Right. Now, where did the title come from? The Man Who Would Be King. What was that a reference to within the episode?
So it's just straight up a steal from the Kipling story / movie. I don't even know if The Man Who Would Be King is the name of the Kipling story. I think it is. But basically, I love this movie with Sean Connery and Michael Caine.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And it's this beautiful story of like these crazy ne'er-do-well ex-British soldiers rolling around India making trouble. And then they hear about a treasure somewhere, and they go across this crazy mountain range to an area where the last like real contact that this group of people had with Western people was Alexander the Great. So they're like really up a valley, as it were.
Right.
And they roll in to plunder. And what they want to find is a tribe that's against another tribe and just convince them. They have a box of guns. They just want to become warlords in this valley. But Sean Connery, I won't spoil the fullness of it, but ultimately, in order to win over the minds of the people in the valley, Michael Caine starts to say, because Sean Connery goes like, he's a god. At one point, he catches an arrow in his body armor, and he just pulls it out during a battle, and everyone's like, whoa! So they just build up his godhood. And at first, it's for the purposes of one strategy. It's to achieve a goal. But then when he starts to believe in it, shit goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And what we were starting to move toward is a Cass who's going like, I think I'm supposed to be God. I don't know if there's anyone else who's going to step forward. I think he's not listening to me. And then as we move to the next stages and he consumes all of purgatory, like he's making God moves, already in his head, because really, as we see in the course of this episode, don't talk to the devil. Don't ever talk to the devil. Hey, God really loves you. Maybe you're the next sheriff in town.
Right.
Maybe you can handle my problems for me.
Right.
And then like Cass is going like, I am pretty cool.
Yeah.
You're standing in front of a Nazi portrait, idiot.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so at the beginning you have this really cool sort of cutaway to like Castiel, the beginning of Castiel, the beginning of Earth. And Castiel.
Yeah, where'd you get that footage?
You get the Tower of Babel falling and all that? What is that for?
That's the beauty of the post department and the culling for, like, I'm sure that's public domain, silent movie. It's probably a scrap from something that wasn't. There's a huge, epic old movie that has all these beautiful battles and all this stuff in it.
Okay.
It's conceivable that it was pulled from that or one of those. Like, there's so many fragments of silent movie amazingness.
Oh, wow.
That they mounted so many amazing visions back then. Anyway, I don't know specifically what that's from, but I'm assuming it's public domain or buyable stock at a low cost.
It really works with what it goes with the voiceover really well.
It does.
And I think in that prologue, if I remember correctly, I hear it. That has a dusting of Kripke passing through it. And there are turns of phrase that are very nice that should be credited to him. I think like the listing of the drunk and the angel and the fallen, the people who stopped the script is one of them. There's a couple of nice turns of phrase that I would say Kripke dropped in. I think that during that period, the Tower of Babel is a pile of dung.
Yes, right. Yes.
I think that's a very lovely.
Yeah.
But also very dismissive of our accomplishments, Kripke. But it works from an angelic point of view, as is always the case. And everyone should be aware that, like, throughout the course of Supernatural, moving even Sarah or Kripke or someone, there's someone on top. That's why I was talking about the umbrella mind, right? Like, this had to be sort of created through elements that came together in coalition after Kripke left.
Right.
But before that point, there was an overseeing brain that was like, Sam shouldn't say that.
Right.
He's not going to say that until episode 19.
Right.
If he says that now, when he says it in episode 19, no thunder.
Right.
Right. And you're like, I didn't even know he was going to say it in episode 19.
Right.
He was like, well, I'm not telling you everything.
Right.
Right. That's the umbrella mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been that for my shows.
Sure.
And it's like, that's a digression.
No, but it's like God's not there anymore. And now, you know what I mean?
Yeah, which is so fitting.
Yeah, totally.
In every way. Like, it's such a meta show.
It really
God
is.
left. Oh, does he love us anymore? I don't know. It's definitely a he.
Yep.
I don't know why. I don't know why we kept that. But he's a full-on he. We know that. Swinging big balls. God.
That's why Robbie got cast. Robbie Benedict.
Yeah, you better raise a
giant
glass
large
to
Robbie.
the patriarchy, fella, because no Venus of Willendorf here.
Is this the first time that we see Castiel spying on the boys, that they can't see him, but he's there? I feel like that was a new...
Yes.
Yeah.
We've had all kinds of states for Cass. I don't believe... I mean, there was a sense of an overarching spying or something happening in Lazarus Rising when Dean was running away from the force that was Cass. But no, like, personalized, hiding in the closet, looking at conversations stuff, which is... All of those moments were part of informing Cass for the season. And that whole part of it is, like, showing how far he's been forced to step away from the people he loves the most. And that now he's like, there's a glass between him and them of agenda and strategy and deception, and he can't get out of it, you know?
Yeah.
To the degree that angels have a subconscious, to what degree was, you know, his dropping a kryptonite? Didn't he want to get caught?
Yeah.
In a way.
Right.
Didn't
Good
he
point.
want to cross that divide somehow, to somehow bring honesty back into their relationships? Because he was definitely feeling lost,
right?
Obviously.
Yeah.
Because at the end, he's feeling so lost and he has no one.
Yeah. I thought that was really poignant. Like, give me a sign, nothing happens.
From the humor standpoint, I love your demon Bobby.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So broad. I could have taken that back a couple of notches.
No, I loved
He's
that. I thought that was
exactly Bobby.
great.
He's exactly
Like Bobby. I thought it was
Does
great.
two different voices.
I mean, it was fun. Ellsworth.
Yeah, Ellsworth.
He was fun, but like he was, I mean, it was fun to do and it was cool. And I love that he's got bowls going and phones and he's like,
dude, the bowl thing was so funny, talking to various bowls, like, what? I love that.
He answers the phone as, doesn't he answer the phone as like FBI or something like that?
Yeah. He's going like, what? Okay, FBI. All right. And he's going, no, we don't need a Wendigo. We need it, whatever. Yeah. It's that was lots of fun. It's a top 10 badass Castiel moment, in my opinion. When you catch a fleeing demon with your hand and you shove it back into his face, or behind, right? And you go, they turn.
No, like not that too, but double drop on the dude. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and then he's like looking up at his next victim.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah,
and shoving that demon back in the guy's
throat
was great.
Really good.
That was a great sequence. Yeah. It certainly showed up an alpha side of Cass we don't see much.
Totally.
Yeah, while he was being so vulnerable, and that was the thing, is to recapture. We had to reclaim the audience's love for him, which was scary because I loved Cass and I didn't want to lose him.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So like it was a high stakes operation.
Right.
So he had to be Superman. He had to be like very much the best friend and confidant and hopeful, member of Team Free Will or what have you.
Yeah. And also had to be the guardian angel for Sam and Dean.
Mm-hmm.
So
fitting.
Is it true that you line in? Were you one of the people in line in hell?
No.
It says there's a rumor that you're one of the people in line for hell.
That rumor has been shot down right here on this podcast.
Take that, rumor mill.
I was too busy looking at stuff and going like, is this really going to go on forever? That's just, it looks short. You're like, we'll fix it
but it looks great.
Yeah, it looks great.
It looks real. Richard, I'm sure you could relate to a lot of things he's talking about going up there. And
you crossed a divide. You crossed the actor.
I crossed a divide, and it's a very weird divide. And again, Ben, you were the pioneer here, so kudos. I will say, having been an actor up there a bunch, swapping hats is tough.
Right.
Because you have to then go, hey, actually, I need you to do this thing. It's a different relationship immediately.
Yes.
To not, where do you want me? It's, that's where I want it.
Yes.
And those are two very different things.
Right. They may or may not accept your authority, depending on how you put it forward, right?
Correct. It's an exercise in communication, to be certain.
But also,
in both clarity and tone and everything else.
Also, as the writer of the episode, that's interesting too. You have two hats you're wearing at the same time. Like, if Richard, you're acting in the episode you're directing, and you have to be two different people.
Yeah.
Did any of the actors ever ask you writer questions when you're directing?
Sure. Oh, I was a menace. I think Jared put it well at one point. I forget where he was talking, but like, they eventually regretted ever asking me anything because I would tell them a lot. I'd go like, let me tell you where you're headed. Let me tell you what's going on in my head about this whole situation.
Right.
And they'd be like, whoa, okay, all right. And they would just back away.
That'll teach them.
That's not good directing, but it is a form of, it's a good defense mechanism.
It's the opposite of bad directing though.
Sure.
Because no answer is not an answer.
Yes. If you can have
you're better to over answer than not answer.
If they're backing away from you with their hands up, you've solved the problem.
That's kind of a
win. Yeah. Plus, as a writer, it's a good writer thing. You know exactly what you've written and why you wrote it.
Yeah.
You're not like, I don't know, say what you want. You're like,
that's my authority then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where I had, and also I happen to have cultivated very good will over the course of a series of scripts, where by that point, I was, to some degree, for a couple of folks up there, they were like, "Oh yeah, we kind of know your scripts.
Sure,
we're interested to see what you're like or whatever."
Yeah.
Like there was a little bit of an opening there, which was all I needed because everyone is operating. I mean, that's why it worked as well as it did and became like Curtsy and Village up the river. Because everybody really had the village's, well-being in mind.
Yeah.
From what I could see.
Yeah.
Where like it was the show. Make the show good.
Yeah.
That's a good spirit.
Yeah. I was making the comment that it's nice that the brothers are actually getting along. This is the first season, the end, where it's not brother versus brother. It's brothers versus Castiel.
Yeah.
And in essence, it's a show about these two guys that are on the same team doing having the same, and they've really been against each other for a while. So it's nice to see them, working together. But what you've done here is you have it from the Castiel point of view, which humanizes him. And like you said, we like him. We want to like him, Yeah. So it gives a little bit more, his side of things. I mean, we don't even know where it's going. We haven't seen the season finale yet, but
oh yeah, I got to be careful. I forgot about all of that.
Yeah.
Because I only really am me. Yeah, I'd say that the notion of the boys working together and Bobby and that sort of unity. It's like they were just against each other at the end of season 5, this culmination of this massive angsty worry that they were going to have to murder each other. It's a good palate cleanser.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was cool. It was interesting. I got to know Misha very well when we did that, and we're good friends.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's Misha heavy, to be certain.
Yeah. And it was very much like, because all of those elements, like we were constantly running around where we would be going into like a little, they had like a sound trailer that was outside
for
ADR and stuff. So we were doing all this VO like in between things in that little trailer, and it'd be like, and it's so crazy because you're getting these words down. You don't have a lot of time for takes. Ideally, there's a good rapport between you and the person you're trying to pull this stuff out of. And I mean, there was just a very good rapport there.
Here's a question for you about that voiceover specifically. It's set up. It's a prayer. He's talking to God, I should say. It feels very much talking to God and not a prayer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is that by design?
Yeah, it is essentially the notion that there's a familial quality in and among the angels where they talk about like he was talking about his big brother. That's an archangel, right? And ultimately, as you move through the seasons, so that basically this familial thing is one of the mechanisms designed to keep the angels in control, right? Dad's not happy with you. It's because the angels are kind of dumb. They've seen everything, but they haven't been given like a lot of analytical or personal grounding of weighing shit and stuff. That was demonstrated in a number of ways, but like Cass is demonstrating that now in terms of the choices he's making.
Right.
That's what Dean is saying at the end of this. Like, you're fucking up, dude.
Right.
Like you should have come to us. It's not easy to wield free will. It's not, your decisions are not going to just be naturally ideal or what have you.
Yeah.
In the vacuum of other people.
Yeah.
In a vacuum without other people.
Yeah.
Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? It's all such heady stuff, gentlemen.
It is. Well, this episode is, dude, of all the episodes we've had you on to discuss, and some may be more off the reservation story-wise, but this is one of the more complex ones for me.
Yeah. Like we were saying at the beginning, it's like, it's almost like in the novel, there's like a chapter that has to do this incredible heavy lifting of exposition, and you forgive it because it's part of a larger piece.
100%.
Like a lot of people argue with Melville's microscopic study of how to whale.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In case you wanted to whale.
Yeah. Right.
Right. 100%. Yes.
And I don't know. But here it was like how to love Cass again.
Right.
And that was a crucial thing that it didn't matter really how we got there, because we were actually on the sub and the needle was in the red. The love for Cass was losing oxygen at a perilous rate.
Right.
Yep.
The next episode I did, which you'll see next season, is a story. It's just it's a story. It's doing stuff. And but it's like allowed to just be like, oh, hey, this happens.
Right.
This influences that.
Right.
And then, oh, wow, you don't know until this happens that this was that.
Right.
Story.
Right.
Like,
right.
This one is just like, remember the beginning of humanity.
Yeah.
100%. And by the way, I will say the opening is super strong. I love that found footage. It's great. And sort of also gives you an insight or a reminder of how long Castiel's been around.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
It was very interesting. The whole episode is interesting. Like the writer and director himself, it's a fascinating and intricate piece of work. So we appreciate you being here to discuss it, man. As always, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are watching it. I hope you're having a nice time.
We are.
And nice job behind the nice job behind the lens, man. I know very well that transition is a tricky one. And you were a pioneer, so I'm glad you did it, or I might not have been allowed to.
Oh, yeah. I would say there's lots of room for improvement in my personal lensing, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, buddy.
Love you, man.
All right.
Hey there, it's Misha Collins. If you're like me, you want a break from the sound of Richard Spate's voice, we'll be right back after this.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hey Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
Thank you for supporting Supernatural then and now. And now, back to the show.
You know what's cool about talking to Ben is that I always feel like no matter what we think of the episode, after I talk to Ben, I like it that many degrees more. You know what I mean?
You bring up exactly what I was going to say. For starters, he's always a great interview. Secondly, the way he framed the episode being like, you need to see it in context, he's not wrong. That's not how we view this show. Mm-hmm. Just by design, you and I are always watching each one as a standalone. Mm-hmm. We try to stitch it together with the other ones, but
Yeah.
So just watching this as a standalone, to his very point, this wouldn't be the one that brings in a new audience.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wouldn't be the one that people go, that show. But it's a necessary piece of television to stitch it all together. I think it's a really interesting observation by Ben.
Well, and the way he said it was, it's like calling calling the Lego shop and requesting a specifically styled Lego for what you need, you know?
Yeah.
It's really, really true. I also appreciated his analogy of writing is like pajama time and directing is muddy boot time.
Super clever, as always.
All right. Well, you know what else is clever is our breakdown of the episode within a section we call Mythology.
It sure as better be clever. Mythology! 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 Mythology!
In this episode, Castiel makes a few trips to heaven.
He sure does, Robert.
Tell us what that is, Richard.
You know, sidebar, in Supernatural, heaven serves two purposes. One, it is the home realm to God and the angels.
Uh-huh.
Two, it is the final resting place of souls God deems worthy to enter, with each one getting their own version of heaven based on their positive memories and experiences while on earth. However, we're just on season 6.
We are.
So, and I'm spitballing here, the purpose, role, and domains of heaven are probably, I'm going to assume here, going to get more complicated as we get into later seasons.
Oh, okay, Nostradamus.
Like, heaven exists in different forms in different cultures.
Okay.
I mean, here, let me show you a few that you might not be aware of, okay?
So excited about this, yeah.
Not Valhalla.
Okay.
It's the opposite of Valhalla.
I would assume.
Most people are probably familiar with Valhalla, especially my neighbor Hala.
Okay.
The heaven-like place where the souls of fallen warriors are taken in Norse mythology. However, according to the myths, half of them were said to go to a place called Goforkjörgnger, which means exactly what you think it means. Go F yourself. Wrong. It translates into field of the host or army field.
Yeah.
You know, I look at that word, which is spelled Folkyanger, and I think to myself, really? No umlaut?
Well, there's an accent agu over the O.
I know, but I feel like you couldn't have thrown an umlaut in there to really slam home the complicated nature of that word.
Sure. It feels like it needs an umlaut. Okay, so not Valhalla is one of the different forms of heaven.
Yeah.
What's another one?
Tir na nog.
Okay.
No, that's not a threat. That's the next topic. Known to the Irish as the land of the young.
Okay.
Tir na nog.
Apologies to all of our Irish fans.
Was an island far out in the Atlantic Ocean, which was said to be a place of eternal happiness and youth. Mortals were normally banned from the island, but could reach it if they underwent a little surgical work around the lips and eyes.
What?
Or an extreme trial. Or were invited by the fairies that live there.
Okay. And you failed to mention Tlalocan.
I was getting there.
Okay.
I thought you were going to make a joke about the fairies that live there, so I was giving you some breathing room.
No. I
like it that you kept it classy, though. Good for you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
For the Aztec people, Mictlan was the place where nearly all mortals went when they died, regardless of how they lived. Like, you're a giant beehole, you're going to Mictlan.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, you're the greatest person ever. Welcome to Mictlan. You know what I mean?
Right. Is how does people describe you and then me?
Exactly. If certain conditions were met, the soul could be granted access to other afterlives. One such place, known as
Tlalocan,
just making sure you knew, was home to the rain god Tlaloc. It was exclusively for those who died because of rain, lightning, and then they realized there's not that many people, so they opened it up to people who died of various diseases.
Right.
And they also realized that's a narrow path.
Right.
Let's really fill the seats. Let's open it up to people who were sacrificed to the deity. And then, of course, they were just packed to the gills.
Yeah. Who wasn't?
It was said to be a place of eternal spring.
Okay.
This lore was the influence for the reimagined Prince Namor in the 2022 film Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Okay. Is that the second Black Panther movie?
It is.
Okay.
It was it replaced what was going to be Black Panther Wakanda occasionally.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But they decided to lean on the Wakanda part.
Right. Wow. So Tlalocan was people who died because of rain, lightning, or various diseases, or were sacrificed to the deity.
It sounds like a lawyer advertisement. Have you been killed because of rain? You got struck by lightning? You slip and fall because of a damp step in your grandma's yard?
I had a really bad cold. That works.
Yeah. Now, you get sacrificed to a deity by a couple of jerks? Come see me.
It's said to be the place of an eternal spring which is like, fine. But what if you're a fall guy?
Tough tarts.
Tough tarts. Well, that was fun, Richard. Well done. And
not as fun as this next section.
Very
Dude, hold on to your hat.
What?
Because we've got some fun facts.
As told to us by Ben Edlund, the title of this episode is based on the 1888 Rudyard Kipling novella of the same name. In 1975, it was adapted into a film starring Sean Connery and Michael Caine.
And now, to do his imitation of Sean Connery, I give you Rob Benedict.
I'm Sean Connery. That's my Sean Connery.
Unbelievable. And now following up his Sean Connery, Sir, not Sir, Rob Benedict doing Sir Michael Caine.
My name is Michael Caine. How's that?
And scene.
God, those were both pretty bad. Sean Connery. Wait, my Sean Connery used to be Sean Connery in The Untouchables. It's like,
and then what you're prepared to do. I can't do him either.
Bring a knife to an Irish gunfight. Yeah, because he played Irish in that movie, but he said Scottish.
He did.
Well, what was the French title of the episode?
It's L'Ange Déchu, which means the fallen angel. And then, of course, the Japanese title, which I can't read here in its native tongue, but loosely translated, it means the happy fun boat that kills you.
The dispatcher, who is Bobby Singer's demon counterpart, is named Ellsworth. Ellsworth was also the name of Jim Beaver's character in the TV series Deadwood.
I knew that had meaning. The second they called him Ellsworth, I'm like, why is that resonate? And I loved Deadwood, and he was Ellsworth. There you go.
Amazing.
That's awesome. I assume that was on purpose, and that's really cool.
100%, because it's the demon counterpart of Bobby Singer. So
yeah, man. Good podcast episode. As always, as you already said, I now like the episode more having done the podcast episode.
Yeah. That happens a lot with these.
I know. We should almost do the interview first and then review the episode.
No, it's fun this way.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will see you next time. This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester, Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester, and Misha Collins as Castiel.
Guest stars include Jim Beaver, Mark Shepard, Demore Barnes, Sonia Salama, and John Tench.
The Man Who Would Be King was written and directed by Ben Edlund.
Editing by Donald L. Cook. Music by Christopher Leonards.
On-set carpentry by David Weber.
Executive produced by Robert Singer, Sarah Gamble, and Eric Kripke.
The episode featured the following songs: Me and Mrs. Jones by Billy Paul, and Blue Danube Waltz by Johann Strauss.
This episode originally aired on May 6, 2011.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Haida Hulsher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty. Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and YouTube at SPN Then and Now.
And become a member of the podcast to get early access, chat rooms with other podcast fans, and video interviews at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. On-set carpentry by David Weber.
Who went by, and I kid you not, David Karp, because he was the carpenter.
Oh, yeah.
And for years, I thought that was the man's last name.
That's hilarious.
And it was not correct. He's also a great piano player, by the way.
Huh.
Quite a musician. He played in that, there was that band called the Impalas.
Sure. David Karp.
Yeah. He played the piano in the Impalas.
I know, Dave.
All crew members from Supernatural. Yeah, dude. Like, he was there the whole time. He's great.
Yeah. As told to us by Ben Edlund, the title of this episode is based on, go with me, it's based on. This reads, the title of this episode is based on. This title of this episode is based on.
What if when he showed up to get the gin was hanging out with the guys who sang, "If you could only see the way she loves me," he'd go, "Gin and tonic."
Tonic, yeah. I was going to say that. Tonic? Where is he going with this?
Gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic.
Story Mill Media.
Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart-Robbins, and I am the host and creator of the podcast, Only One in the Room. Every week, my co-host Scott Slaughter and I invite you to join us and lose yourself in someone's incredible Only One story. We talk to real people dealing with issues like infertility, the death of a loved one, human trafficking, and women who, fake it. Oh, and we want to be fair, so we talk to celebrities too. Emmy winners like actor John Cryer, supermodels like Amber Valletta, and rock stars like Ryan Dusick. Everyone is invited to share their Only One story with our listeners. With 21 seasons and counting, we guarantee you that Only One in the Room has a story that you'll connect with. This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt alone in a room full of people, which is to say that this podcast is for everyone. Download Only One in the Room on Apple or Spotify today.
Hey folks, we're the hosts of Comic Sans, the podcast about comics for those who are sans knowledge. I'm Yen, a reader, writer, liver, and breather of comic books.
And I'm Nat. I used to know absolutely nothing about comics, but now...
So actually, I've got a quiz for you.
I still have a lot to learn about comics.
Thank you. On Comic Sans, I make Nat read some of my favorite works in the medium, including Saga, Daredevil, and the Flintstones.
And Yen talks about what makes that comic special. Sometimes it's a story, sometimes it's...
Paneling, gutters, page turns, colorings, lettering, semiotics, juxtaposition.
Okay, Professor, save it for the episodes.
You can listen to Comic Sans on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can binge our first 2 seasons. That's over 20 episodes on 20 different comics.
And we just launched Season 3, new episodes every 2 weeks.